When I was 4 years old, for family vacation, we drove from our home in central Kentucky to Olive Branch, Mississippi, just outside DeSoto, Mississippi, which was just across the river from Memphis, Tennessee. And Elvis was a huge star, because this was 1966, right? So my daddy's first cousin owned this small motel, very sweet, pretty small motel in Olive Branch, Mississippi, and we were quite close. This cousin was astounding. She looked like a movie star, and she had a very passionate past. She always seemed like she had a lot of money, and mink coats, manicures. She wore her hair like Betty Grable, well into the 60s, and got away with it. Looked damn good with it. Okay. This one cousin we went to visit, she was an actual swear-to-God femme fatale. She was a woman whose beauty caused one man to kill another man and go to prison and suffer for it. So, but you know what? We don't hold that against her because she was so damn much fun and so funny and everything. So we went to see her, and she said, you just come down here to my motel and you just lay up as long as you want, and you can go take the kids to see Graceland. Hell, go see if you can see Elvis. I don't know, but it's a great place to be, and I'd love to see you also. Please come visit us. We did. Probably the next day after we got there, we were in the house in their living quarters with them, and my sister Gwen wandered off, and then she came out and she said, hey, come here. I said, what is it? She said, shh, come here, I'm going to show you something. She took me into my cousin and her husband's bedroom, and she shut the door, and behind the door was that devastatingly beautiful photograph of Marilyn Monroe on the red satin sheets. I had never seen a nude photograph before. I had seen nude family members. It didn't mean anything to me. It was all completely utilitarian. I was gobsmacked by this picture. It was just everything. It was hot and cold. It made my ears burn. It made me kind of tingle. It made the hair stand up. I didn't know what it was. I didn't want to get in it. I didn't really know what sex was or anything. I didn't want to get in there and rub around on her or anything. It was just, I don't know. I like the idea of seeing these things. So I didn't tell anybody about that. I saw that. Now, years later, I'm going to tell you this. 20, 30 years later, we were discussing that specific vacation. It was a very memorable one for us. And my dad said, I knew the minute that we rolled onto the property that was a whorehouse. And we kids were like, Daddy? And he said, oh, yeah, anytime you saw a little old motel like that didn't have many rooms, and every room had its own private garage with a garage door with no windows in it, you knew that it was a no-tell motel, so it was basically a whorehouse. It was just like a place they could come and rent a room for a couple hours. They could pull their car in there. Their wife could even go looking for them and never know they were there in the motel screwing a whore, because that's what Daddy liked to say. Mom and Daddy both liked to say things that were a little bit shocking. They liked that little shock. Even Mom, who was such a Christian, she'd like to say little things that were just shocking, just shock you. But Daddy did that too, and he really enjoyed saying that about people. Learn they're screwing a whore. Anyway, we did not know this when we were there. We had an innocent, wonderful vacation. We did go see the gates of Graceland, and my sister Gwen turned 7 years old while we were on that vacation in Memphis and DeSoto, Mississippi area. So I'm going to fast forward a couple of years and say that I am in the second grade, and my mom is digging into her sewing chest, which is extremely organized, but she needs something, and she removes the organized little tray out of it, and down in it there's a bunch of stuff I've never seen before, and one of them is like this little orange booklet, and I'm like, wait, what? And my mom says, puts it back very quickly. And I said, Mama, what was that? And she said, nothing. It was just something you didn't want to see. And I said, well, because I had a big mouth and I couldn't be quiet. I said, well, I saw a big pair of titties drawn on it. And she said, let me tell you something, mister. Don't you give it another thought. That is something I just took. It's something your daddy had. I took it away from him. I don't want anybody in this household to have it. I just have it. I haven't decided what I'm going to do yet. But don't you dare get back in there and look at that. You hear me? And I said, I won't. I'm sorry, Mama. And then she went in the shop because one of her clients showed up for a hairdo. And then I went immediately into her sewing kit and got the little booklet called Naughty Nifties. And it was 120 jokes or 60 pages of little dirty cartoons, and they were dirty. But there was not a curse word in there. There were no actual words for any sex parts or body parts. And the cartoons, it was always just nude women, but mostly just their titties. It didn't show any, it was just titties, titties, titties. And because of it, and because of the way that boobs were drawn by the artists who did the ads for Frederick's of Hollywood in the back of the movie magazines in my mama's beauty parlor, I learned from a very age how to draw an effective female breast. I mean, we're not talking the little 2 U's with the dots on them. I laughed at that. By the time I was in first grade, I was like, oh, hell, that is... Boobs don't look like that. They're not little... They've got to be... And, ooh, that way you could get them... Anyway, I'm going to shut up. So the thing was, I was effectively heterosexual. I mean, I didn't want to have sex with anybody, but I liked looking at naked women. And I liked looking and thinking about parts of their bodies. And I liked knowing that it was something that was taboo that kind of made me happy. But anyway, so, at this time in the first grade, also, my mother, she was, before my mother became like overnight just a big born-again Christian and just took all of her, I'm going to say, all of her social graces and kind of put them on the windowsill and let them blow away, and lost all of her, the ones I thought were her best friends, and because people didn't want to hear that all the time. But anyway, before that, she was quite normal, and she was actually trying to be a little bit, intellectual. She was taking painting lessons with her friends, and she was taking plaster casting with her friends, and they would redo antiques together and stuff like that. I'm not saying her taste was the most exquisite, but she was having a fun time. She was enjoying culture. She would go with her girlfriends to see plays that were coming through Louisville. I remember they went to see 1776. It was a very big deal. Anyway, she had these books that were like old masters. They were the most classic Bible stories and situations. It was almost like, it wasn't that Pretty Blue encyclopedia. We got that too from when I was a kid, and that was almost like porn for me because there were a couple pictures in there. People were kind of naked in them, and I knew it was Bible stuff, but I was like, still, it makes me feel kind of naked when I'm looking at it. I just kind of... Anyway, I'm going to say I've moved on. So Mom now has these, and she's showing me, and there are some nude, and it's not really risque nude either. It's just like a buttock or maybe a breast here and there, and the Bible stories are illustrated by the old masters like Botticelli and Michelangelo, and I honestly, some of them were so realistic I thought they were photographs of real people. But my mom explained to me that when bodies are shown like that in the nudity for classic reasons and art reasons, there was absolutely nothing but beauty about it, and there was nothing dirty about it at all. Nothing dirty about it at all. So, I know I'm in the first grade because we had to, I was in the first grade, and we had a drawing assignment, and Miss Nichols said, I want you to just draw something really beautiful from your life. I want you to draw something really beautiful from your life. Well, I was all full of Mom's tales about the really good artists did the nude people, and it was totally respected and everything. So without a dirty thought in the world, I proceeded to draw what I thought was an old school classical painting-like picture. I have to tell you that until I was in the second grade, I always took a bath with my dad. There was nothing bad or dirty about that. Didn't think a thing about it. It started happening so early, I never gave it a thought. And he just taught me. I don't even remember him actually. I remember him telling me what to do. Now bathe this, now bathe that, now do this, now kick your feet, now, no. Anyway, about second grade, I was on my own. And then he would just stand over me and holler, you're not getting out until you know your multiplication tables. When you know your multiplication tables, I will let you get out. Anyway, so she said, draw beautiful, and she'd been given a talk about, things are beautiful that you don't even know are beautiful. So I proceeded to do a beautiful illustration of myself and my daddy taking a bath together in a bathtub. And our buttocks were showing. It was drawn with a crayon, and somebody went, oh, and I was like, it's not dirty. And then somebody went, oh, and I was like, oh, and then it was like I scrambled and I tore it up, and then I was like, I want it. And it's real funny because one of my besties of all time, we were besties then in the first grade, and the way she remembered the story, because your friends will remember parts of stories about you that impressed them, and then they'll fill in the blanks other ways. So in her story that she's told everybody, and everybody believes it, and she believed it, she always believed it, I drew a picture of Betty Davis naked, and it looked just like Betty Davis, but she was naked. No, I did not draw that in the first grade. Okay, I'll tell you another one. In the same bent, we were Presbyterian, and our congregation was small, and I remember we had a smallish Sunday school class, and on this day, our whole Sunday school class, because we were little kids, first grade, right? I was in the first grade. You had to draw a scene that was assigned to you from the Bible. So I was assigned the scene where the Pharaoh's daughter finds Moses floating in the little Moses basket in the bulrush while she is bathing. Now, it says plainly that she is bathing. I have seen pictures that Botticelli and Michelangelo did of other naked women in the Bible, so I got the classic thing, nothing sexy about it, so I proceeded to draw her naked with the boobies that I had learned to draw from Fredericks of Hollywood ads and the Naughty Nifty's catalog. So my sister saw it and said, it was that instant thing. You know what? It was like that moment in the last version of Invasion of the Body Snatchers where he realizes that everybody knows, and it's that moment of just like, my sister was like that, and I was drawing it with I'm going to say the crayon was purple. It was purple. I know there's a book about a purple crayon. It was purple, but I had drawn her, and so then I very quickly started drawing more and more nipples on the front of her until she was completely covered in a midriff exposing off-shoulder sweater, purple sweater that did not expose her breasts. And I got out of trouble by doing that way. So then, okay, I got to keep telling you. So we're going to move on forward, and by the time I'm in like 12, 13, all of us little preteen boys in town had figured out a system that worked for us, and where we could get some really pretty decent dirty pictures and dirty books. Because by the time you're 12 and 13, you want to see them. You don't want to see them for artistic reasons. You want to see them for... And look, I already knew that I was different, but I still wanted to see those. I still liked them. I liked the girls. And by this time, I was like, I would like to see some girls and boys doing stuff because I'm a nasty person. Because all the little boys had it. You're nasty when you're that age. If you're not, you're going to Bible camp or something, and nobody wants to hang out with you. So we would vie for these, whoever got the best. So the drugstore was at every magazine in town came through from the drugstore, and they sold, really vanilla things, like Southern Living and all of that, and McCall's and stuff. They also sold all of the comic books that we want, the Archies and the Spider-Mans, and they also sold the girls' teen magazines, but they also sold the daddies' adult magazines, but there was all in just this one rack of magazines, but they were behind. They were on the back rack, and they were behind the softcore gentlemen's magazines like Playboy, and what they did sell was like Playboy, Penthouse, but they also sold Hustler, and I believe there was a Wee magazine in there that we got. Well, the thing was, there was this time and all those boys were getting pouring out of there and fighting over it and stuff, and I go in and I come out with the golden ticket. I'm like, it's a Hustler, and it's got Tanya Tucker in it or something like that. So this one boy who's a year older than me, and he always just kind of acted like he hated me, and I know he didn't, but it was just who he was. He was really cool, and the truth is I just loved him. Even when he would do shitty things like this is what he did. He said, oh, that's cool, let me see that. And, I thought, well, we're buds, and he took it, and he said, yes, it's cool, so I'm going to keep this, and you lost it. And I said, that's not fair. And he said, what are you going to do? Tell your mama I stole your filthy book? Go ahead. And I was just stuck. And I was like, I hated him, but I also really loved him and respected him for that move because I thought, yeah. So, in junior high, I hung out more with girls than I did boys at school. I had one boyfriend, but he was a real gentleman. We discussed science, religion, things like that. Most really nerdy things that we enjoyed being friends about. But I had a bunch of girlfriends, and they were more fun than anybody. And we were all kind of bad kids a little bit. We wanted to do fun adult things and stuff. I don't mean be nasty. I don't mean like that, but I mean we wanted to. We were all going to eventually smoke cigarettes and other things, and we were going to drink beers, and we were going to go to parties, and we were going to hook up with people of the opposite sex in sexual situations. That's where we were headed, but you got to remember that we were just in the 7th grade, okay? Well, one of my little girlfriends just went snooping in her daddy's bathroom closet and came out with an oversized stack of adult playing cards that were so filthy to little 7th graders. You cannot imagine. Now, they were not hardcore. But they went a lot further than like a Playboy would. I'm telling you that. They let's say the equipment was there, it just was not in action. Let's say that's what it was. And this other thing, because one of my other old friends, boy friend of mine from that time, who also ended up, because these ended up, everybody had some. Everybody in the class almost had some. Because my friend, she had them, and then she gave some to me, and then my other friends started stealing them from me, and so they were distributed throughout. And anyway, I don't know why it was, but we were there in school, and for some reason, Carrie brought the very nastiest one of those cards to school. And it was before school, and she showed it to me, and I went, oh, and she said, listen, you can have it, but I'm going to tell you something. Don't you tell it. It was not mine. You did not get it from me. So, I had it, and we were all in lunch in the cafeteria, the 7th grade and part of the 8th grade, and all the teachers were at the teacher table, and I don't know what it was about me, why I was such an idiot, but I just thought, I'm going to pull that card out, and I'm going to hold it up. I'm going to hold it up. And when I held it up, my buddy, she had the biggest mouth. It's a beautiful girl, loudest laugh, and she let out a scream, and all the teachers went, and I thought, my career, my educational career is over. I will be expelled and killed. So I grabbed that card so fast, and I tore it into a million pieces and ran up there and threw it into the slop can, because we used to empty our, they called them that, the slop can. It was there was a galvanized garbage cans that you would rake your leftover food in before you separated your plates and put them into the window to go into the dishwasher. And anyway, I did, because I thought nobody's going to, because I threw it into the wet, moist, icky, sticky mashed potato goo. Threw it in there, and and it was like, oh, thank God, saved. And I'm sitting down, and 3, 2, 1, I hear the same friend squeal, and I look up, and she's standing over the garbage can, looking down with a look of delighted terror on her face, just going, ah! I run up there, and right on the top of a big pile of like coleslaw and mashed potatoes, there's a little triangle of the dirty card picture. And it has the genitals of both the man and the woman, and they are not touching, but it has the genitals of both, and they're both in the shot. So I just went deep. I just went down into the mashed potatoes and the pinto beans, just pushed it down, and then it was over. And luckily, the teachers were probably over us that day for something, because nobody came over and said, I want to know what that was about. Because there were always people that were going to tell them what it was about. I could name them. They're still just like that. Those kids that you went to school with who were always tattling on people, they're still tattling on people, but now they're 64-year-old adults who are still tattling on people. He's texting in Sunday school. Anyway, it doesn't matter. It's all... So that got you caught up to that part about the dirty books and the kids. Oh, but also during that time, I don't know. I'm going to take you on into 20-something minutes here, because this is... We're talking about dirty stuff, okay? So, There's this moment when we were on a street in my hometown. It was just a collection of us children. And I want to say that the youngest of us was probably 12 and the oldest was probably 16. We didn't usually hang out together. It was just that most of us, these kids lived on this street and we're sitting on a hillside in one of the backyards. And for some reason, we're passing around a stack of filthy magazines. And it's like, we are not at all sexy friends. Well, I mean, my two girlfriends who are there with me and I are sexy friends. We know about this. But the other people we are sharing our porn with are not sexy friends. And you can kind of tell. I mean, one of the girls, I love her so much. I still love her so much. But, you know, I could see her looking at Pouty Peggy, who needed to be spoiled in every way in that centerfold. And I saw her kind of shudder a little bit like, what the hell am I doing? Anyway, I think I'm going to let it go there because I'll come back because dirty pictures, they keep playing into my, I don't know. I would try and stay away, but they kept coming back into my story. It'd be like, what? More dirty books? Please, let's stop this. Let's move on into cleanliness. And yet I didn't. I love you and we'll talk later. Bye.